What is up, everyone? It's Hattie again, ready to bring you my first scouting report of the 2023 NHL Draft's prospects. Now, I could have started easy and gone with Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, Matvei Michkov, Leo Carlson, but no, I went for the guy that I've scouted probably the most so far this year, since I scout the QMJHL for Dauber prospects, and that's Ethan Gauthier. Of the Sherbrooke Phoenix in the QMJHL. Now, Gauthier is a right winger, kind of doubles at a center sometimes. He's pretty much been in the top 20 on most rankings so far. You've got Sportsnet at 25, my own team at Dauber Prospects at 29. Now, this is a collective effort, even though I am the QMJHL scout. We have some heads of scouting and stuff like that who can, bring up a player or drop them down, that kind of thing. He ended up at 29 on our rankings. But I like his game. Now, if you look at his stats so far this year, we have got 57 points in 53 games for the Sherbrooke Phoenix so far this year in the QMJHL. Now, if you recognize the name of the team and you're a Habs fan, it's because Joshua Roy plays there. He's been his line mate for most of the year, but I was really interested in seeing if these point productions are a result of playing with Joshua Roy, or, what's going on that side with Gauthier. And luckily enough, Joshua Roy went to the World Juniors, so that left Ethan Gauthier without his elite producer on his line. He was gone from December 8th to January 8th, for the World Juniors, Joshua Roy. And in that time, Ethan Gauthier had 16 points in 10 games. So not necessarily sort of riding Joshua Roy's coattails or anything like that. So now we're going to get into the data before we go into the video. We're just going to go and check that out. Before I do that, though, I just want to tell you the games that I have. So I have this January 4th game, a 4-3 shootout win against the Rouyn-Noranda Huskies. Now, that is the first of two games that I have that he played without Joshua Roy, the second being this December 28th 7-1 win against the Chicoutimi Saguenay. And the other two games I have are games that he played with Joshua Roy earlier in the year, so November 4th against the Drummondville Voltigeurs, a 2-3 shootout loss. And the other one I have is this October 9th 6-2 win against the Bécomo Dracard. So now let's get into the data and we'll sort of check out what Ethan Gauthier really shines in terms of his analytics. All right, so let's get right into the data now. I just wanted to highlight here that Ethan Gauthier played 0 minutes to 0 seconds in this 4-game sample on the penalty kill. I don't believe I've really seen him at any point this year playing on the penalty kill, but he did spend 9 minutes of these 4 games on the power play. Now, I've highlighted the important stuff, so feel free to skim through if you kind of already know what this means and what this entails, but just to give you a bit of explanation, first and foremost, Ethan Gauthier had 21 shot attempts in those 4 games, so about 5 shot attempts a game. 12 of those were on net, and what's really impressive to me is that 70% of his shots came from the slot. That's a really promising thing. It means that Gauthier is really good at finding space in the middle of the ice, in the slot, to get a shot off. Now, this is a new stat I added for the breakdowns of the 2023 NHL Draft. It's kind of a combination of the eye test and data. So I basically look at the goals that he scored and see sort of which ones I would deem translatable, which ones I would deem would probably work at the NHL level given the tools that he applied in that specific situation. Moving on to his passing. Now, what was interesting to me first and foremost is that his even strength passing and his power play passing were pretty much similar in terms of percentage, which tells me that he's not really trying anything different on the power play than he does at even strength. Doesn't really change his game based on the circumstances. What I really like, though, about Gauthier is the amount of high danger chances that he does attempt and how many of them succeeded. So 9 of his 19 pass attempts to high danger areas succeeded for 47%, and that represents 22% of the total passes that he completed. So 22% of the passes that he attempted were high danger passes. That led him to have 11 shot assists, evidently. And it's the same principle as for the goals. He had 2 assists in the sample. Both are translatable assists, in my opinion. So moving on from that, we've got his puck retrieval situations. Honestly, the main thing I want you to take away from this is just how good he is in contested battles. Now, he does retrieve loose pucks at a decent rate, but nothing to write home about. But really, the percentage of contested battles that he wins is impressive. And the thing about that is in the queue, you're going to have a lot of big and strong defenders, but you won't have necessarily the smartest defenders or the more technically advanced defenders, as you would, for example, in the OHL or the WHL. So what this tells me is, especially given the fact that Ethan Gauthier is about average sized, this tells me that we've got a smart player on our hands, especially on the forecheck, especially in puck retrieval situations. Moving on to the play driving, this is where it gets interesting for me, because this tells me that Ethan Gauthier is on a very, very good line. His team controlled 93% of the successful passes to the slot when he was on the ice. His team controlled 69.7% of the Corsi when he was on the ice. Corsi, if you don't know, is all shot attempts. So whether the shot is blocked or it misses the net or it hits the net, all those are counted in this sort of measure. So it's a good way to sort of determine possession, because teams more or less on average shoot at the same rate throughout a shift. So it's fair to say that his team approximately had 70% of the possession time when he was on the ice. And same for high danger chances, just a runaway for his team. So he's definitely playing on a good line with good line mates, which helps his production, but he's not necessarily sort of coasting on that if we sort of look at the amount of high danger chances he creates off his stick, either by shooting or passing. In terms of line carries, nothing to write home about. All I want you to realize is he gets more and more involved in transition the higher up the ice you get. This is pretty typical for offensive attackers. Mostly, you're going to see higher numbers here from defensive forwards, usually centers, because they're, making themselves available for a breakout pass. Dump-ins, dump-outs, pretty average across the board. The one thing I do want to mention before we close up on analytics is just how disruptive this player is. 24 disruptions in 4 games. It's about 6 puck disruptions a game. So either he's getting a stick on passes or kind of poke checking players, that kind of thing. And especially how physical he is. 20 body checks in 4 games. That's an average of 5 a game. So he's throwing his weight around, very often, getting involved in those physical battles and doing a great job of it. Now that's it for the data. Now let's go right into the footage here. We're going to check out these games from Ethan Gauthier and sort of break down his strengths and weaknesses. All right, so Ethan Gauthier is going to be number 79 in blue or in white. So the one thing I really want to look at to start with is his physicality and his disruptiveness in the offensive zone and just all over the ice in general. Really physical. You see a big hit there. Throws his body around really well. Gets low in order to create an advantage for him in those physical scenarios. He's also really disruptive with his stick, which is kind of one of the things that led to his team having possession so often and creating so many scoring chances when he was on the ice. Here it's kind of an opposite scenario. He takes a big hit, but as the puck cycles around, you see how quick he got up and was able to make a play. So he doesn't stay down for long. He's able to absorb hits in a projectable way that makes sure that he doesn't get injured, doesn't stay down for long, and is always involved in play. Another example here of him creating a loose puck for his teammate to pick up. This is something that happens really often. Here he extends possession on the forecheck by about 5-6 seconds, just hems the opponent into their own zone. Another example of physicality and disruptiveness, using his stick and body in conjunction, which is something that I really like in his game. But one thing he needs to work on is to be able to better absorb hits when he's leaned on. So it's one thing to take a big hit and get up, but as soon as he's leaned on, which is something that happens often in the NHL with NHL ready defenders, he kind of tends to lose that battle, and it's because of his struggle with getting low and using his center of gravity in order to be harder on the puck. Here's an example of him kind of going through a similar scenario, but actually doing it well, using his body in a projectable way in order to get around the defender, lift their stick, and make a good play. Next, I want to talk about Ethan Gauthier's playmaking, and there's 3 things he does really well, which make me think that his playmaking is probably his best asset offensively. First, his ability to blend fakes into his passes. Second, his ability to spin off pressure and still be able to pass accurately. And third, his comfort on the backhand. That is a major thing regarding his playmaking. I think that's the best asset, and it's something that I really love to see from prospects. Their comfort on the backhand, because that basically doubles the amount of passes that you're able to accurately make. Makes you a lot less predictable in your playmaking as well. I also like the fact that he's able to blend his physicality and his disruptiveness in order to create more chances for him to pass the puck. Here's a good chance that he creates off the wall by getting it to the middle for his teammate. Here he misses his first pass, but this second pass is so accurate and so effective, this cross-ice pass to his defender. There are multiple examples of this sort of playmaking savvy. He's not just sort of creating these flashy plays where he spins and passes on the backhand, behind his back and stuff like that. He's very comfortable making simple plays like this, where where he chips the puck up the boards. His teammate gets it. He follows through with his route. The puck doesn't get to him, but the initial play is started by him in that simple play to exit his defensive zone with a chip off the boards. Here's another example of him being comfortable on the backhand, making passes. Here's a blend of that creativity, but also that simplicity afterwards with that change of sides, with that pass, that weak side pass. Here's another example of him using his physicality in order to get a puck along the boards and play it to the front of the net. Great shot pass here to the front of the net. And here's an example of him using his backhand in a creative way, but he doesn't really connect on his pass. This is a perfect example of what you see often from Gauthier, a spin pass behind his back, but it's really accurate. He's also able to play area passes, so that's something he's really comfortable with. Another spin pass here. I think if he puts any velocity on his pass, it doesn't work there, but the fact that he's able to just drop it for his teammate, that made the play sort of connect a bit even better. Here he spins twice off a check and finds his teammate in the slot. Just a tidy piece of work in the offensive zone. Next up, I want to talk about a couple pro habits that Ethan Gauthier has. So first and foremost, I think that his tendency to cut the ice in half and try to, limit the space that his opponents can work in is really good. He cycles above the puck, and when there's a turnover, he drives the net, which drives the defense back and gives his teammate a chance to get a shot on net. Another example of him cutting the ice in half, and I do see some flashes of him being really good on the back check, stifling opponents, identifying threats. It's not a consistent part of his game, but here he does a good job of spinning off the check and making a simple play in order to break the puck out. And here's probably his best habit, which is getting off the wall and driving the net, something that he does often and leads to a good chance for his team. Next up, I want to focus on Gauthier's skating form. So there's a couple things I really like in his form. First and foremost, his crossover usage, the ability to generate speed, and the stride depth that he shows. There's a couple things I do think need some work. First and foremost, his knee bend isn't ideal all the time. It's kind of inconsistent, and it's something that he can work out really easily with time and with a good development staff. I think the main thing for him is how good he is in transition because of that crossover usage and the amount of feistiness and relentlessness that he shows. Second, third efforts on pucks. It helps him get the puck in the offensive zone with control and keep it there for a while. Here's an example of him just gaining the middle with a quick move and doing a good job at that. Overall, I think there's a couple things that could help him with his skating form. Mainly, maybe just removing one eyelet from his skates in order to just free a bit more space for his ankle to bend and create a bit more stride depth for him and improve that even further. I like his ability to go from a standstill to top speed in a couple short strides. He does that really well. Here's a good example of him, breaking the puck out and making a good play. Finally, we'll look at Ethan Gauthier's goal scoring. So his goal scoring is pretty good, but there are some limitations, which I'll mention in a sec. First, I want to talk about his positioning and his skating, which are, in my opinion, what make his goal scoring tick. He's constantly taking shots from dangerous areas. As I mentioned, 70% of his shots in the sample came from the slot. He used a lot of one-timers, tipped some pucks. These are elements of his game that are already present, but he's rarely beating goaltenders clean with shots. I want you to focus on this breakaway goal because I think this explains and exemplifies perfectly what I'm talking about here with his positioning. So instead of going straight to the net on this partial break, he cuts in front of the defender, which prevents the defender from being able to intervene on the puck, get a stick on the puck, anything like that, without taking a penalty on Gauthier. He basically cuts him off of the play before even going on the breakaway, before even receiving the puck, and he's able to slip it between the goalie's wickets. Another example here from going to the net, going to dangerous ice. This goal didn't count because it was considered goaltender interference, but he got a stick on the puck in dangerous areas. Another example here, he does tip a lot of pucks. This is an example here, gets a stick ready as soon as a pass comes in. He's able to tip that behind the goaltender. His play along the boards also helps him a lot in situations where he's able to spin off a check and take a shot after going off the boards like this. Really dangerous scoring chance from him. Here's another goal he scored just by being well positioned. So he's always sort of in the right place at the right time. But I feel like if he could shoot even half as good as Joshua Roy does, who's his teammate, he would be able to score a lot more goals because his positioning is so solid and he understands consistently where to be and when to sort of hit pockets of space that, if you're able to improve his shot, you can get a legitimate goal scorer out of Gauthier. But what I really like, again, is just his ability to go on breakaways and score goals, just generally get involved. So to recap, Ethan Gauthier's biggest strengths are his non-stop motor, his intelligence and understanding of where to be on the ice, his physicality and stick work to pry pucks off of opponents, and his skating. These strengths strengths make him a good playmaker, a great forechecker, and a solid transition driver. He doesn't have the high-end puck skills that other prospects have in this year's draft, and he does need to develop some consistency on the defensive side, especially when defending his own zone. On top of that, his forechecking game would be even more efficient with some added strength in his upper body, but that part should come on his own as he matures physically. Overall, Gauthier's pro habits and intelligence make him a surefire NHLer and a good fit for a contending team that already has their fair share of star forwards. He has the upside of a middle six forechecker and playmaker with a profile that fits well on the wing. I think with some better puck skills, he would unlock even further offensive potential though. He's likely going to be a pick in the 20 to 30 range since teams that miss the playoffs usually need more upside than certainty. He could benefit a team like the Avalanche, the Rangers, or the Bruins who have their stars but need guys to fill out their roster and bring some energy into the lineup. In terms of comparables, the closest one I've found is Fabian Zetterlund, who was recently acquired by the San Jose Sharks. He also shares some similarities with the likes of Barclay Goodrow and Andrew Mangiapane, especially when it comes to the motor and intensity. But that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. If you like what you saw, please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on who you'd like me to scout next. I could go the easy route for you and break down some high-profile prospects like Connor Bedard and Adam Fantilli, or I could go for guys who are a bit less known. Let me know what you prefer. You can also follow me on Twitter at HattieK_scouting to keep up with all of my work. I write articles, I post videos like these, and I even have my own podcast at Locked On NHL Prospects, which is also available on YouTube. Enjoy the rest of your day, and tune in next time for more prospect breakdowns.